In this video, we're going to talk about how to make a girl chase you. How to make her feel so attracted to you that she just has that feeling of like, I have to have him. I have to have this guy. This is where she'll take aggressive action to win you over and try to make you like her. She'll touch you, compliment you, ask you questions about yourself. She'll try to impress you. She'll seek your validation by talking about her achievements or things she's good at. And ultimately, she'll be a lot more sexual towards you. She might bring up the topic of sex early on. She might start talking about how good she is in bed, implying that you'll have a good time if you choose her. And ultimately, when a girl is chasing you like this, getting her into bed and getting her into a relationship just becomes incredibly, incredibly easy. Now, before we get started on how to do that, I just want to make it very clear that chasing is not the same as attraction. A girl can be pretty attracted to you, but not chase you at all. On the other hand, it is actually possible for a girl to not feel attracted to you, but to start chasing your approval anyway. Now, normally if a girl is chasing your approval, she'll start to backwards rationalize that she must be attracted to you as well. So the two do usually go hand in hand, but I just want to draw this distinction right here because it's really important before we start. You don't need to make a girl chase you in order to get her on a date or get her into bed. You know, the vast majority of girls I've hooked up with weren't really chasing me, quote unquote, all that much until after we'd already had sex. You know, the masculine role is to take action, you know, approach the girl, pursue her, take the lead, make things happen. And then the feminine role is either to accept or reject the guy's advances. And in a lot of cases, if you're confident, you have cool vibes, and you escalate smoothly, the girl will follow your lead and ultimately you'll hook up together without you ever needing to make her chase you or make her like obsessed with you or anything that strong. But in this video, we're going to talk about something different. Something which is not the natural, normal course of events. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a girl chase you before you've slept with her. In fact, I'm going to show you how to make a girl start chasing you from the very first moment you meet her. Now, why even do this? Well, because it's pretty much the ultimate superpower you can have with girls. When you're able to make girls chase you, you'll literally be able to walk up to any woman anytime and have her eating out of the palm of your hand within 3 minutes of speaking with her. And in a lot of cases, you'll be able to take her home and sleep with her in less than an hour. This is generally how I meet most girls now. You know, I don't take them on dates. I don't meet them on dating apps. I go to my front door, I step outside, I find a girl I'm interested in, I do what I'm about to teach you in this video, and then anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes later, we're going back to my apartment and hooking up. And then from there, it's really easy to keep her around as a girlfriend or a friend with benefits or whatever if I want to see her again. So I'm not dealing with all the bullshit that most guys have to go through these days of swiping on Tinder, getting ignored, getting ghosted. It's just walk outside, see girl, approach girl, get her chasing me, bring her home, bang. So this is an extreme video about an extreme topic. You know, you do not need to do what I'm talking about here in order to get laid or get a girlfriend. If you're just getting started and learning how to attract women, then just focus on the basics for now. You know, getting in the gym, getting in relatively good shape, getting your clothes and style on point, and getting good at approaching and talking to girls. But on the other hand, if you've already got those basic things covered and now you want to upgrade and start consistently pulling the really hot girls and, you know, have the power to like literally sleep with a new woman every week or even every day if you have the time, then this topic of making girls chase is really the key to everything. Okay, so with all that out of the way, how do you make a girl chase you? Well, it all boils down to one little word, and that word is dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical in the brain that makes us want things, desire things, crave things, and it's ultimately what makes us chase things. So it makes us take action to get the things we want. You know, in one study, they took mice or rats, I can't remember, and they removed their dopamine receptors. And what happened was these mice were sitting there like right beside food and water, but because they didn't have any dopamine receptors in their brain, they literally just starved to death because they couldn't be bothered to eat the food that was right there in front of them. Now, interestingly, this is a little bit like how a lot of attractive young women act in dating, isn't it? You know, they might have a great guy right in front of them. He's asking her out, he's trying to get her on a date, but she just kind of can't be bothered. You know, she wants a boyfriend. She does find the guy attractive enough. She knows she probably should meet up with him, but she's just like, I'd rather just kind of stay home on the couch eating ice cream and watching TV. So why does that happen? Well, it's because the guy is not triggering any release of dopamine in her brain while the ice cream is and the TV shows are. So getting a woman to chase you, in fact, getting her to take any kind of action at all in the physical world to be with you, it requires that you trigger some amount of dopamine release in her brain. And importantly, this means you're not just competing with other guys who may or may not be triggering dopamine in her brain. You're also competing with everything else she could be doing that would release that dopamine, such as entertainment, TV shows, Instagram, TikTok, shopping, food, gossiping with her friends, etc. And if you want that girl to actually go out of her way to meet up with you and then to actually pursue you actively and try to win you over, you've got to trigger more dopamine release than all these other things. And these are things which have been optimized by massive corporations with billion-dollar budgets and teams of scientists working around the clock to trigger dopamine in your brain. So we are in a dopamine war here. You know, If you like a girl and you want to make her chase you, you need to be triggering her dopamine. You need to become like a dopamine drug lord. And again, you're competing here not just with other guys, but also with all the other dopamine drug dealers on the block, including TikTok and Instagram and everything else that has basically burned out her precious little dopamine receptors. So how do you do that? How do you jack up a girl's dopamine levels, get her addicted to you, and get her to chase you? Well, I'm just going to skip all the boring science stuff here and get right to the point, which is that these eggheads at universities and research labs, they know how to trigger dopamine and get people addicted to things. And this is settled science. You know, it's used by just about every social media company, every gambling company. Dopamine is released in the brain in response to something called reward prediction error. Reward prediction error. And this is the holy grail of getting a girl addicted to you and getting her to chase you. So what is reward prediction error? Well, it means that dopamine is triggered in the brain in response to rewards, but only when those rewards are unexpected and unpredictable. So to bring this down to earth and the domain of dating and attraction, a reward in this context is anything you say or do which makes the girl feel good about herself. It might be giving her a compliment, telling her she looks pretty, telling her you like her earrings or you love her style. It could also be simply giving her attention of any kind, you know, liking her pic on social media, texting her, giving her any kind of positive attention at all. All these things are a quote-unquote reward, which is part of triggering dopamine in the girl's brain. However, as you may have noticed in life, giving girls compliments, liking their pics, and giving them lots of attention, it doesn't tend to make them chase you, does it? In fact, we actually often tend to see the exact opposite, which is that the more compliments and attention and praise you give a girl, the more she tends to lose attraction to you, if anything. And in some cases, she even becomes completely repulsed by you. So why is that? Well, it's because, as these scientists have figured out, dopamine, the chase chemical, is only released in the brain in response to unexpected rewards. And so this is the root of the problem with being a nice guy and with only giving girls compliments and positive praise. She very quickly comes to expect it from you, and so those rewards no longer trigger dopamine. What actually happens is that she just gets bored. But when she then meets a guy who gives her unpredictable rewards, a guy who's kind of an asshole sometimes, but then sometimes he's nice, that's a lot more compelling to her because the rewards she's getting from that guy are unpredictable and unexpected, so they do trigger dopamine. And that's what ultimately makes her start to chase him and try to win him over to get more of those little dopamine boosting rewards. So basically the formula here is be an asshole, be a bit of a dick, tease the girl, be a challenge, give her a hard time. But then every once in a while, you drop in a little pellet of dopamine, a little treat in the form of a compliment or praise or positive approval of some kind, and then you go back to giving her a hard time. And what happens is that she starts to chase you in order to win your approval, in order to get the dopamine of more compliments and more praise and more rewards. So to get a girl to chase you, the whole equation is asshole most of the time, but sometimes be nice. And the way I like to think about it is, you know, I used to have this teacher in school who was a complete bastard. I mean, people were terrified of this guy. He was just such a ruthless hard ass. But when he gave you praise, when he said something nice about you, you would just feel like, oh my God, like it just felt so good, so meaningful to get praise from him because it was such a rare achievement. Now, I'm not saying you want to be like some drill sergeant screaming at women or something, but the point is you need to keep it unpredictable. You need to keep her on her toes. You need to give her a full range of emotions, both positive and negative, if you want her to chase you. Okay, so that's the basic theory and the basic formula of getting a girl to chase you, but how do you actually do that in practice? You know, what do you say? What do you do? Well, it all comes down to one simple technique, which is commonly called push-pull. What is push-pull? Push-pull is where you give the girl a continuous, unpredictable, and never-ending mix of positive and negative emotions. It's where you put her on an emotional roller coaster of going up and down, up and down, up and down, and this is what hacks her dopamine levels. This is what lights up her reward circuitry like a Christmas tree, and this is ultimately what triggers her to chase your approval, chase you for affection, and to chase you for sex. It all boils down to push and pull. That's it. That's the only thing you need to do to make girls chase you. You have to continually alternate between pushes and pulls. That is between negative expressions, known as pushes, and positive expressions, known as pulls. You can think of the push or the negative as like pushing her away, and you can think of the pull or positive expression as pulling her in. Both sides are necessary. Both parts of this equation are essential. You have to do both. The big problem with most guys is they get caught on only giving girls positive expressions and being too nice, and that always leads to her getting bored and rejecting you. Occasionally, you know, you'll get a guy who only does the negative side, maybe tries to like nag girls too much, and that doesn't work either. You know, the magic is when you mix both, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, exactly what to say to get a girl chasing you within 2-3 minutes of conversation. But before I get to that, I just need to warn you that everything I'm about to say in this video applies only to how to use push-pulls on a girl in person. That is, when you're speaking to her face to face. It is kind of possible to make a girl chase you over text, but it's much harder. It's a little bit more tricky. And the push-pull technique, as I explained it here, is something you generally shouldn't be using with girls over text message unless you really know what you're doing. So, you know, I've gotten 1 or 2 emails from guys being like, I tried to run push-pull on a girl over text and she blocked me. So don't make that mistake. You know, push-pull is a technique that works like crazy to make girls chase you in person, but it's very risky to use it over text. Because long story short, you know, the girl needs to know that the quote unquote mean things you're saying to her are ultimately playful, and she can't see that unless you can see your body language, your facial expressions, your tone of voice, etc. So a lot of examples I'm going to give here, if you said them to a girl over text, would absolutely bomb, so don't even try it. And later on in the video, I will show you how to get girls chasing you over text, but for now, just understand everything I'm about to show you is only to be said to the girl when you're speaking to her in person. That is either during the initial approach or when you've got her on a date. Okay, so with that warning out of the way, let's get into the specific examples of what to say to get a girl chasing you using the push-pull technique. So like I said, push-pull has 2 components, the push and the pull, negative and positive expressions. And to make this as brain dead simple as possible, just think about this in terms of teasing the girl and complimenting the girl. Or another way to view it and formula you can use is I love you, I hate you. Just continually alternate between saying variations of one of those 2 phrases. I love you, I hate you. So on the I love you side of things, on the compliment side of things, you can say things like, you know, I love your look. You look very glamorous tonight. You're very striking. You're very elegant. I love your outfit. I love your style. Those are all examples of compliments that you can say to girls like right off the approach. However, as you get talking to her and get to know her better, you want to increasingly make your compliments less about her appearance and more about her personality, you know, her behavior, how she acts, her values, how she expresses herself, anything which is non-physical and specific to that girl. And these are much, much more powerful than just complimenting how she looks. So for example, some personality-based compliments would be telling the girl things like, I love how independent you are. I love how free-spirited you are. You seem like somebody who's very adventurous. I like that. I love the fact that you studied, you know, XYZ in college. I'm super interested in that topic. I can tell you're smart. I really like that. You have a very impressive vocabulary. I love how articulate you are, how well you express yourself. You can tell her, you know, you have a really good energy. I really like how I feel around you. I honestly just love being around you and getting to stand here and look at you. This is like the high point of my entire week. So those are all examples of the pull side of things. Complimenting the girl, saying I love you or I love XYZ about you. All very, very good. Very, very important. So get in the habit of complimenting girls more. You know, become liberal with giving girls compliments and praise. You know, there's some common advice out there that, you know, you shouldn't be complimenting girls, you shouldn't be too nice, and it's all bullshit. You should be giving girls compliments. In fact, you should probably be giving them more compliments than you're giving them right now. But the key is the way you avoid falling into the friend zone, the nice guy zone, and being rejected is you want to mix those compliments with lots of teases, with lots of pushes, with statements and gestures that quote unquote push the girl away. So, some examples of the push side of things, of negative expressions you can use are, you know, if the girl says something silly, you can tell her something like, note to self, do not date this girl. You can say, I hate you. You can mock her for something she said or did. And often the best teases are actually just very, very subtle. You know, it's where you may not even say anything verbally, but in response to something the girl said or did, you might just make a face at her like, kind of like skeptical of her, dismissive of her. And really the more subtle teases and pushes are, the better they work. So with teasing girls, a few formulas you can use are I hate you, I hate blank about you, I disagree with something she said. It's always a powerful one. You can say, you know, I was really attracted to you, but then you said blank, and now my attraction for you has just completely died. I'm sorry. You can say, I love X about you, but I kind of hate Y. And obviously I'm leaving the blanks here so that it's more natural, because you can fill them in with something specific in the conversation or the interaction. So it doesn't seem like you're just using some pickup line you got on the internet, even though that's exactly what you're doing. You know, I think one of the big drawbacks with the old negging techniques that the pickup artists used to teach was like they'd tell guys to neg girls by telling them things like, is that spinach in your teeth? Or like, where's the off button? And these lines are actually great if you can use them in a way that feels natural and spontaneous in the conversation. But personally, I don't like to use those kinds of like pre-canned negs or teases on girls because it just doesn't feel natural in the moment. But what I found is a much better way to approach this topic of teasing girls, of push-pull. Instead of memorizing specific lines, just use certain formulas where you can like fill in the blanks and make it more natural and authentic to that specific interaction. So formulas like, you know, I love X about you, but I hate Y, or, you know, I was so in love with you when I first saw you, but then you said blank and now I just can't see a future between us. You know, those are really good because you can apply them to any situation and just fill in the blanks with whatever came up with that specific girl. And I really want to emphasize here, you know, with teasing girls, with pushing them away, the actual content of what you're saying here doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be in any way logical at all. And in a lot of ways, actually, the more absurd and illogical you can make the teases, the better they'll work. Like you can say something like, you know, oh, you know, I love your style. You're so chic and you make it look so effortless. But, you know, I just had to look at your elbows and they're just too pointy for me. You know, I'm sorry. I just can't date a girl with elbows that pointy. I mean, we can be friends, but like, I just don't think it's going to work out romantically, you know? Now, obviously, never tease girls over anything that's like sensitive, anything real. Never tease them over being ugly or overweight or anything like that. Use common sense here. But you can tease her for basically anything else. And this is things like things she said or did, her facial expressions, gestures, mannerisms, how she acts, what she does for a living. You can tell her, my girlfriend has bigger boobs than you. You can turn your back on her mid-conversation, make it look like you're about to walk away, but then turn back to her and say, just kidding. You know, they call that a takeaway. You can approach other girls in front of her. You can lightly push her into another guy and say, you know, you should go talk to that guy. Maybe he's more your speed. This one's great if the guy is kind of creepy or weird looking. You can even like wave down some creepy guy at the bar and point to the girl you're talking to and be like, hey man, this girl here thinks you're hot. She wants to meet you. And the girl will be like smacking your arm like, no, stop. So basically anything you do to just rip her to shreds, mock her, make her a figure of fun, it's all gold. But the key is the actual content of what you're saying and doing isn't that important. The key is that you're just giving her a mix of positive and negative expressions at all times, positive and negative emotions. And obviously when I say negative emotions, I mean negative in a playful way. You know, you don't want to actually insult the girl or make her feel bad ever, but just continually alternating what you say between giving her compliments and praise and teasing her, tearing her to shreds, making fun of her, playfully mocking her, challenging her, disagreeing with her. And this is what makes her chase. It's that continuous and unpredictable mix of positive and negative emotions that she's getting from you. And when you get good at this, when it becomes habitual, it really is like having superpowers with women. You know, you can make any girl chase your approval anytime. It doesn't matter if she's way more attractive than you physically, she's married or single, older than you, younger than you. This works on every girl you'll ever meet without distinction. And it lets you basically program her to chase you like you're a fucking black magician of social dynamics. You know, when I first came across this technique about 10 years ago, I was getting like okay success with girls. You know, like I could approach girls at bars. Sometimes I get a makeout, sometimes I get a phone number, sometimes I'd actually convert that number into a date, but it was just very, very unreliable and very much a numbers game of just constantly trying and being rejected and occasionally getting a girl to like me. But once I started using push-pull, once I started getting serious about training myself to communicate in this way and make it a habit, very, very quickly I started getting laid. I started getting non-flaky numbers. I started getting one-night stands and same-day lays. Very, very consistent, like every week, every 2 weeks. And it just made a night and day difference to my results. And you really do learn, like making a girl chase, it's pretty much programmatic. Like it's literally just pushing those buttons in her brain and she'll start chasing you every time. And it's really, really easy once you make this a habit. So what I've given you here is basically the big picture overview of how to get a girl chasing. And it really all comes down to push and pull. However, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the one drawback of the push-pull technique is that it doesn't really work that well over text, and that also means it doesn't work over online dating. But there is a way to make a girl chase you over text and over online dating. I've put together a free training video for you on my website where I show you how to do exactly that. Click the link in the description below to discover the #1 secret to making a girl obsessed with you over text message, even if you've never met her in real life. In that video, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to text a girl to get her begging you for a date and sex. And I'm also going to show you a few simple texts which get back a girl who's gone cold, who's ghosting you, or who stopped responding. Plus, I'm going to give you the exact word-for-word phrases you can put in your online dating profile to subliminally program hot women to fall in love with you and to become obsessed with getting you into bed just from reading your profile. Now, I've used this technique to pull Instagram models, exotic dancers, even OnlyFans girls, and to get them obsessed with me, as well as using it on sweet, innocent girls like the girl next door, virgins, shy, cute girls, etc. Anyone you could ever want to date, I will show you exactly how to make her chase you just by sending her a few simple copy-paste texts. So, click the link in the description below to see how, and I'll see you on the other side.